River Meditations, Obituary of Light, this charming little darling white book that Leaf Press published, with a mute swan on the back and the front. And my children thought it was a penguin giving birth, and somebody else thought it was something to do with polar bear, so in case you're not a birder. I explained the cover is a mute swan with its beak and its feathers. And my friend Paul Bauer, who built Moon Over Naikun and built the Spare Girl, he was always luring girls to come to stay out in that area, hoping that one of them would fall hopelessly in love. And they never did, but he offered an exotic dancer 50 pounds of shrimp to spend the night with him once. I don't think he had quite the right approach to women. Maybe that's why it never worked out for him. But anyway, the book's dedicated to him. He died of lung cancer a few years ago. Of course, he was a chain smoker. He smoked lots of pot as well, but probably not why he got lung cancer. I don't know how he got that up there. Such a healthy atmosphere. Anyway, the book is divided into 4 sections according to the seasons, and I'll just read a few of these. They're very short. I love this book because there's one poem on a page, which I think is really how poetry, sometimes we have to put these huge books together for our publishers, like 96-page books. My favorite book is Laurie Lee's My Many-Coated Man. It's 13 pages and every other one is blank. I mean, and you could actually sit with that in an evening and read it. And so I was quite delighted when Ursula suggested this book because there's space around these poems. And this is winter. After the first snowfall, I find a winter wren frozen on the forest path. Who could have imagined it? Even the birds are freezing. As I push through earth locked in sorrow, in ice, find a hollow between rocks where her body will lie. A winter wren lights on the handle of my shovel. This is 2. Across the river, children are eating snow, their lips the color of tiny kingfishers in the numbing cold. The delight they take in the melting of each snowflake on their tongues reminds me, joy is there, in everything, and even when we can't see it. In December, usually there are these winds that bring the sea scallops, swimming scallops in on North Beach, and you can just walk out on the beach or drive your pickup if you're so inclined. There are about 400 pickups out there now in the winter, but before this became a popular occupation, you could walk out and pick scallops and have a nice feast. And Paul Bauer he lived there so many years that he's one of those people who knew, you could tell by what cloud came over, what the weather would do. And I always admire people who live in a place and can tell who are that much in tune with things like clouds and winds. So many times Paul has explained how a southwest wind 90 miles offshore creates a groundswell that blows the scallops in on North Beach, but only if there's a northwesterly, and particularly after a southeaster. So many times, how can I not remember? It's true, after any wind, people will phone, I think the scallops are in. I said, no, I say, that's the wrong wind. None of us get it right. You hear this crash on the beach, I think, that's the wind, but you have to wait 2 days now. There's some sort of art, and I always miss it. I'm always 2 days late. A wild swan served on a bed of her whitest feathers, the dusty flavor of potatoes steeped in cream. I poured wine chilled in the river since this afternoon when the first black clouds rolled up on the horizon. When the cat came in licking the snow from her paws, our guests dropped their eyelids in pleasure. All evening I had been promising snow. One of them quoted poetry. I just read that on the prairies and people looked at me blankly. I realized that promising snow wasn't such a big deal. I had to explain that on Haida Gwaii, it's great. The kids rush to fields and buy those plastic things that really are no hills to go down, but their parents tow them along the side and all the cars go in the ditch, so it's really nice and peaceful because you can drive along and there's nobody on the road. And this is spring. Paul's home from the hospital. Who would have guessed he could beat lung cancer? Already he's up making deals, vying to buy my old Toyota for parts when I've driven her into the ground. And I had this cat. She was a tree climber, and she would I had this hemlock tree right my bedroom, my famous opium bed in which David Bowie and Mick Jagger had slept, is on the loft. And opposite the window was this cat, Bits, who would climb up the tree and she'd be on this branch. And she was up there for 7 days and wouldn't come down. It was a southeaster, and you know the tree is going like this, and I can just see this cat going. You know how you can't hear a cat through the storm in the window. I know she's meowing, and I'm trying to lie. I go to sleep, and I think because it's light until 11 at night in the summer, and eventually, the last person who owned this cat cut down a tree to get her out of the tree, and I had somebody who was a logger climb the tree. But that she just found another one and went up again. But people say to me stupid things like, "You never see cat skeletons at the bottom of trees." And I think, oh, man, you don't know this cat. And a neighbor of mine on Vancouver Island had a cat that was 30 days up a tree, and it was apparently it's like air when somebody saw it in the binoculars. There it was. So they're very stubborn. Our cat is up the tree again. I hear her cry over the lonely tattering of prayer flags worn to transparency by the wind. I try tempting her down with heart minced the way she likes it, still warm from the gutted body of the deer. I build a bridge from our roof to the end of her branch so she can pad across and I can rescue her. But no, it's as if she clings to the high dying hemlock because she has something she wants me to see. Later, with the moon rising, I climb back onto our roof with my flashlight, her eyes 2 shiny plum pits summoning me. She is happy now that I have come just to sit patiently and watch from this height the river empty into the sea. And then move into summer. This is 3 of my neighbors' dogs died one summer, and so this is a poem to them. How empty the white bowl by the back door waiting to be filled. Lonely the cracked rubber ball, sad the comforter abandoned on the grass. Fetch, death said, and they left to chase the wind. 3 good dogs, Bubba, Nike, and Schlugu. I read this at the launch for this book at Trout House, a little Sackwall restaurant near my house, and at the end of it, a dog howled. Perfect. I don't know why. I realized the way to get people to buy 3 copies of your book, at least, is to put their dogs' names into your book. And so if anybody has a dog's name they'd like put into a poem, I'm willing to write a poem for your dog. But actually, people did come up and buy multiple copies. It's amazing. People love it. Not so much cats. This is a kind of found poem. A young girl pulls herself along like a broken cricket, her face surrounded by pale sunlight like Jesus. In a magazine I find at the laundromat, I read, "We travel to faraway places to watch in fascination the kind of people we ignore at home." In the margin, someone has written, "Why do we do this?" It's really true. I mean, I think of Haida Gwaii and the characters are there, but I went to Sicily last month and just watching people on the streets, thinking how amazing everybody looks and how interesting. I guess it's the whole thing of familiarity. Oh, poor old Mona Nova Naikun is in this poem. Wendy Riley, I think she's opening next door. There's another house that she's going to make into a restaurant this summer, so maybe I'll have a job after all. Wendy's cinnamon buns at Moon over Naikun, the best under the sun. She no longer bakes chocolate chip shortbread because, she says, people kept buying it. This is why none of us are millionaires on Toadville North. We have this kind of, we're not into the, really making money. And Wendy would give away her day-old, she uses everything organic, and her day-old cookies would be free. And I said, geez, Wendy, even in the city, people charge like $1 for that. You can't be doing this. Anyway, so one more. Out of nowhere, a low-flying plane. I cover my ears as a duck flaps up from the river squawking. I can still hear the drone long after the plane disappears. A duck's cry doesn't echo, and no one knows why.